Welcome to Hassle-Free RE, the show where we share tips, tricks, and stories from the short-term rental industry and business alike. Hosted by Dave Menapace and Will Van Wickler. They'll help you navigate the exciting and ever-evolving world of short-term rentals. Whether you're a seasoned host or just starting out, they've got something just for you. In each episode, they'll bring you insider insights, expert advice, and real-life stories from hosts and industry professionals who have been through it all. They'll cover everything from maximizing your rental income and profits to creating unforgettable guest experiences and handling unexpected day-to-day challenges with ease. Are you ready to discover the secrets to running a successful short-term rental business without the hassle? Then let's get started. This is Hassle-Free RE.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hassle-Free RE. I'm Dave Menapace, president of the 5-Star co-host at Launchpad Consulting, short-term rental consulting, joined here by my man, Mr. Will Van Wickler, New England's #1 short-term rental real estate agent. And then we're supporting him as the caboose over in Massachusetts, but Will takes the cake on that one. Will, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you? A little change of scenery on your end.
A little change of scenery, man. We're hanging out in Cape Cod. For those that don't know, it is not 3 o'clock when we usually do these. It is it's a little bit later. It's the evening before, but we're managing things while being on vacation here. But we are in one of my favorite places on earth, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, man. We're at the little cottage that started it all. And we blocked off 6 weeks this summer just for ourselves, and it's sweet. It took about a week adjustment. There was an adjustment period with the kids being a little bit out of routine and hitting the beach every day, and they got quite a life. I'll tell you that. It's we've mini golf twice, bumper boats twice, movie theaters once, beach. I think we're counting at 9 times in the last 10 or we hit it even today in the rain. So not a whole lot stops this family.
It's the all-inclusive lifestyle right there.
Dude, I love it, man. I love it. It really is the house that started all. So it's always inspiring to me getting to spend time down here. And at this point, it's hard to get me off. Like Cape time, at least in the summer, it's chill time. It's good. It's a lot of fun.
I love it. And I
how's
appreciate
things
you
going for
joining
you?
us this week, man.
Yeah.
I missed you last week. Things are good. Things are kind of busy right now. It's interesting. We saw a little jolt of activity in the market and a lot of new people reaching out and getting ready for some cost segregation purchases. So we're staying busy, finding deals every day.
I like
That's
it.
it.
Well, and it's cool too. Like I know that obviously you do a lot of work in and around Portland, a lot of work around Sunday River, but I've been seeing a lot of transactions happening. I think in like Vermont, a bunch of the lakes regions for Maine. You're really spreading the wings. It's cool to see, man.
Yeah, we're getting out there. We got some cool stuff happening in New Hampshire, some listings that will be
Nice.
coming on. So yeah, it's a
Love
good
it.
time. A lot of miles, but we're making it happen.
Sure, that's what the Tesla's for, right?
Right, 39,000 miles in less than a year. We get after it. That's the truth. We don't go to Mass
No
though.
biggie.
We skip that
No,
state.
no, I'm here for you. I can deal with all the pain in Mass, but yeah, it's been cool over here in Mass. We've really been promoting the South Shore. Yeah, for pure investors, we've been promoting the Situate, Marshfield, and Plymouth areas, like those. The proximity to Boston, not having to fight Cape Cod traffic, lots of colleges around in the area. Just really, really great year-round occupancy, really. Of course, the winter's a little slower than the summer, but you're still seeing significant occupancy and good ADRs. It's got to be a beachfront home, though. I kind of use that caveat that the pay to play is a bit high, but the return is worth it.
I've seen
And
the
then
numbers
Cape
on your
Cod,
newsletter. They're crazy. I mean, really great burrs, even some
yeah,
turnkey. I'm like, man, I need
yeah.
to buy a house in Mass. I never thought I'd say that. I mean, really, really impressive numbers on that newsletter.
What's been fun too is managing in that market I don't really like, of course, I use AirDNA, STR Insights as well, but it's really easy just for me to look at the houses that we're managing and then build a model off of that, which, something I always appreciate. I know you're able to leverage that all across New England as well. I do the same, in Cape Cod, but the buyers I see a lot in Cape Cod are not as much like the investor type. It's usually, hey, we've been wanting to buy a Cape house forever. Our kids are still too young for us to use it all summer. So, you know what, we're going to take 2 weeks. And then, the season's usually about 5 months, 5 to 6 months long tops, depending on where you are in the Cape. Um, hey, let's rent it out. We know that if we use 2 weeks of the year, we're not necessarily going to be cash flow positive, but we're going to offset a significant amount of our expenses. And if we keep at it over a few years, our nightly rent is almost double what it was in 2019. So it's like, and that was 6 years ago, or 6 summers ago, 5 years ago. So it all, like, if you hold real estate long enough, you're always going to look like a genius.
It'll all
So
work out. That's the truth. Just hold
totally,
on.
it does. It does. Well, let's get into it. So there's two topics we really want to cover today with everyone. We're going to talk about reviews, Airbnb and VRBO reviews specifically, the history around how they used to get removed if they were invalid, false, defamatory, just completely wrong or retaliatory, and kind of what we're seeing now. So we're going to get into that because I think that's a bit of a hot topic. And then we're going to finish up today's show talking about really Q3 and beginning of Q4 of 2024. This, in my opinion, is one of the hottest quarters for buying, and kind of regardless of if you're a mountain, lake, or beachfront property, which are the three types of uh, home avatars that we see, anyways, here in New England, generally speaking. So we're gonna finish up with that. So reviews. Oh man, we live and die by them. It's great and it's terrible all at the same time.
The dreaded 4 star. That's the best one to
Yeah,
get right there. Yeah.
yeah, or
It
when
was
you're really
great.
in a timeout chair with a 3 star. Um,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
so, what's so interesting, Will, is up until about a year, actually up until about 6 months ago. So we're recording this, it'll be Thursday, the 25th of July. I would say up until about last fall, like September, October of 2023, if a review was so much as even being subjective, you could get that review removed. Great example. At one of our top properties in Bethel, somebody left a 4 star review. And in that review, they said that the towels were really scratchy. Odd, odd thing. No complaints during the stay at all, and like put that in the review. Another one, and that was a 4 star. And we brought that to Airbnb and said, hey, this is a subjective review. It's not factual. It's just their opinion. And boom, like that, Airbnb removed it. We had another one where guests complained that the electricity was faulty because there was two electric panels and it was a little bit confusing once the stovetop went out, which was an electric stovetop. Where, anyways, uh, they weren't an electrician, and they mentioned that they were not actually an electrician in the conversation, and boom, that was actually a 2 star review. Boom, Airbnb removed that. And we have a 97% 5 star review over, I don't know, 1,000 something reviews in Airbnb. But it's just these like little ones, right? That are
They'll knock you
usually
down.
opinionated. Yeah, they're opinionated. Generally, they're coming from guests that don't mention any challenges or issues during their stay. Sometimes they do now. They're getting more vocal, but sometimes they wanted a refund. You never know what the intention is. It used to be a lot easier to get these removed. And in addition, I'll come out and say the controversial thing. There's a million companies that somehow have some sort of in or black box where you pay them $100 and they can get that review removed. They're out there.
A lot of
Um,
discussion about
Air
them in the Facebook groups right now.
Yeah.
Every single day I see it.
Every day. And so Airbnb has taken a huge stance against that. And yeah, I don't know about you, but I've definitely seen, I don't know anyone personally, but I've seen folks post about it where their Airbnb account gets shut down or suspended
Absolutely.
for 30 days, something like that. And if you're a co-host and you're managing a ton of properties, this could be totally detrimental to you. Um, so before we kind of get into, what we do, have you kind of noticed this too? Because I know you have your own properties that you manage on Airbnb and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely. It's totally changed too, where I think people used to be so much more understanding of things. And I think
Yeah,
just as a society, people have lost all patience. And now there is a sentiment against hosts in general. And I've seen that
yeah,
switch in the last year
yeah.
with Airbnb's new policy. I mean, I used to be able to call support and just, say, hey, this is, you can see the chat, they're retaliating against us. They'd say no problem. I remember I tried to do that 3 months ago. They
Yeah.
escalated, nothing happened. So not a
Mhm.
property manager. I've seen that on my side. Then I've also seen guest patience totally go away, and total lack of understanding go out the
Totally.
window as well. So what about you on the management side with over 30 properties under management?
Yeah, yeah, and we've seen it on steroids. It's really, really interesting. Um, uh, and it can be a bit frustrating, of course, but it's
Super
part of the
frustrating.
business. It's
Yeah.
hospitality. You know what I mean? When money's not as tight for folks, they're generally more understanding. At the same time, like I don't hate it. It's continued to push us to get better and better and better at our quality. Quality meaning making sure everything in the home is in tip-top shape, and then also making sure that the guest experience is second to none. And, we are careful that we only take on homes that we think are in alignment with the guest experience we're trying to provide. So whether they're staying at a two-bedroom home in Cape Cod or they were a guest at a six-bedroom home in Bethel or Newry, we're trying to really keep that experience paralleled. So for example, the check-in process and the lock used on every single house is the exact same. What we stock a home with and how we stock it, from number of rolls of toilet paper to the coffee to the creamers to everything, number of towels available for guests, all of that is the same. And that's by design. We want to keep this like really five-star experience no matter where people are going. But and every market has its own personality and flavor, but we've definitely seen that on steroids. I won't get into the whole can we check in early, can we check out late thing, but I have found that, and maybe it's rightfully so, guests are very quick to get frustrated if something isn't up to their expectations. Now, the challenge that I want to send out to owners is make your home one that meets their expectations. For example, if you're in a market like Bethel or Newry, and almost all of the properties on the first few pages have air conditioning, whether it's window ACs, central air, mini splits, whatever, like they have AC of some kind, and you don't have that, even if you mention it in your listing that you don't have it, the guest is expecting that it will be there, right? And if it's
Because
not,
nobody reads
right.
anything. It doesn't matter if it's in your nobody reads at all.
Totally,
They do
totally.
not
And
read.
in Cape Cod, a lot of people used to have to bring their own sheets, bring their own soaps, all these different things that they would have to bring with them. And the homes were priced accordingly for that, to be honest. And some people love that. They're like, cool, a cheaper vacation. But now people are like, a cheaper vacation, but I'm also expecting those things to be there. So I think as a host, you need to start really trying to get ahead of some of these things. But if you're not, or you run into one of those guests, we had a situation at a home here in Cape Cod where apparently the guest had trouble getting the kayak off the kayak holder, and which was interesting.
Oh my gosh.
Or they were upset when they got there. The hot tub was at 90 degrees. It was because brand new water was put in that morning, and it just takes time to heat up. And this was at 4 o'clock, so by the evening it was 100 degrees like it should be, but brand new fresh water. Um, different things like that. In Cape Cod, it's almost impossible to find someone to take trash in between turnovers. It's like a once a week thing. People come, they go to where the barrels are, they take it. So if someone sees some trash in there from the prior guest, there's like these different things that no matter how you articulate it in the listing, it doesn't matter if you had it in there. These days, Airbnb has gotten they pretty much won't remove any review unless it's pure retaliatory, derogatory, and a one-star review because they know how much that'll hurt you.
Or if the
Um,
guest never checked in, I've learned. That is the only
oh,
other
right,
exception. If they've never checked in,
right,
they'll wipe it.
right,
But that's it.
right.
Ask me how I know.
So, even if the guest leaves a message that is totally, totally false and you can prove it to be so, Airbnb is not going to get that thing removed. So that can pose a lot of issues, right? In one instance, you as a host can think, well, I don't want to use Airbnb. Well, that's great, but across thousands of guests that we've had and 30 properties, our stats still show that 78% of the guests are booking through Airbnb. And I'm not ready to throw out that kind of revenue at this point just to prove a point to Airbnb.
I shut my
um,
VRBO account down.
yeah, yeah, right.
Like there's just no
So,
point. Yeah.
exactly. So this is all good and fine. So why do I share this? Well, I want to share our process as a management company because we have everything has a standard operating procedure in our business. And I want to share what we do and how we do it in hopes to achieve a positive review. And I'll share some instances where we failed and some instances where we were successful. So if we have any inkling that a guest is having a challenge or an issue during their stay, maybe they brought it up. I mean, it's impossible to fix something if they don't mention it, right? But we do check in with them after the first night. How was everything? That's usually where we learn things. We also, in our guest guidebook, there's a first impressions feature, and they can give us an
Hmm.
initial review in touch stay that never hits Airbnb or VRBO. So we're able to get ahead of some things using them. It's pretty
Interesting.
cool.
That's
Yeah,
clever.
slick.
I knew
Because
the
sometimes people,
after first night check-in. That's great, but that is super slick. Wow.
yeah, it's just, trying to get in there and see how things are going. Um, but anyways, if we have an inkling, what happens is one of our team members puts the information for that reservation into a project management board. We use monday.com. They put it in there and then they assign it to our director. Our director then gets on the phone and actually makes phone contact with the guest. We these days, yes, it's great to leave things in the chat in Airbnb and VRBO, and you can always reiterate, or give the summary of a conversation in there. We get on the phone with them and we say, hey, what's going on? How can we make it right? Usually it's something small. The cleaners forgot to clean off the grill, and or like the propane tank was empty and it shouldn't have been, like small sort of like quality issues that we do try really hard to get ahead of. Or we have some markets where the hot tub tech only comes once a week and someone shows up the day before that and the water's green. Hot tubs are temperamental. Whatever it is, right? If it's a major amenity malfunction, heat and AC, internet, hot tub, pool, pests, ants, things like that. We're getting on the phone with the guest and we're trying to figure out what can we do to make it right? What's the issue? Let's hear you. Most people just want to be heard. How can we make it right? What can we do for you? Sometimes it's a gift card to a restaurant. Sometimes it's a refund of one night. We used to never do the refund thing. Now it's almost like you got to just play the game and keep them happy. And then after the stay is done, let's say we don't hear anything, they're really happy, we don't hear anything, we call them again after their stay just to check in on things once more. And usually in those instances, we also don't leave the guest a review because if you leave the guest a review, they're going to be prompted to then leave you a review. So we try and just wait and see if they're going to leave us a review or not. and we kind of take it from there. And honestly, I found that this approach we call it the save the review is our process. But 5-star reviews are obviously really important. I've found that almost every owner, as they should, looks at their listings on Airbnb and VRBO, and they track, what are we getting for reviews? What are people saying? And it can be really upsetting to an owner when they see something that's obviously false as well, or like it didn't have like you there's always a way to try and get ahead of this stuff. So that's been our process. We track that listing all the way through. We have the phone calls, and then we have a section. It's sort of like you move it into different stages. We track what that final review was afterwards so we can see, did our save the review process actually work? So that's been our approach. It's been interesting, and it's sort of still in its infancy, but that's what we've deployed. And so far it's been working pretty good.
Are you mentioning the review in that call after you de-escalate the situation, or are you just like trying to fix it and just leaving it to goodwill?
Usually we're leaving it to goodwill. Though I will share a story where we got a 5-star review out of this. A guest showed up to what was one of our very top, like, premier properties, and it was just a confluence of small things that all happened, and our quality inspector was traveling, and it was really unfortunate. We had a good run of it, like a year without a single guest complaint or issue. And so I ended up playing some phone tag and got on the phone with the guest. And when it came time for the review, they were like, "Hey, we want to talk to you about what we're like thinking about for a review." And I paused them, and we had a really good rapport. I refunded them some money.
Wow.
They did love the home. They wanted to stay at other homes that we managed. They were experienced Airbnb travelers and guests and stuff, so they weren't just trying to be a pain. And I said to them, I was like, "Hey, I'll be honest, we have a perfect like 45-star reviews on this house. I'd super appreciate if you guys just didn't leave a review. It seems like we've come to a great understanding. It actually just helps me more if no reviews left. At the end of the day, if you feel so inclined, absolutely leave one. Don't lie. Just share your thoughts and feelings. I know you're a little upset with how this trip went." And they were awesome. And on that call, they're like, "Nope, we're so appreciative that you called us and took a half hour to talk to us. The refund wasn't necessary that you sent us, but we super appreciate it." And on that call, they left us a 5-star review. So
Oh my god.
yeah, so it saved the review, and I had a genuine and good rapport with these folks, so I couldn't really complain. I was just like, you know what, it all worked out well. But that's a happy ending. That's a perfect ending. And I do find that the phone call where they can actually talk to somebody goes a long way. I know there's so much of this business we're all trying to automate, and in a lot of ways, the automation leads to a better guest experience and a more consistent guest experience. So it's totally valid. Every now and then, you just gotta jump on a phone and like let them hear a voice. So
There's nothing like getting off platform. I found if you're looking to de-escalate a situation, that's the best
yeah,
way to do it in my experience.
totally, totally. Um, so let's put a cap on that. Let's talk about some home buying, some STR home buying.
So we've saved
As
the
we head,
review. Now we're looking to
we've
buy
saved the
more units.
review. Save the review, time to buy. I love Q3, man. Q3 is like, I find a ton of transactions happen in Q3, whether it's a beachfront property, a lakefront property. Those houses are usually starting to get to the tail end of their summer, and people got to enjoy it one last year and they're ready to sell, or the home didn't perform how they wanted it to. Usually, it depends. It could be a myriad of reasons, and they're ready to sell. Or ahead of winter and the ski season, people want to sell and people want to buy so they can have something ready. What are you seeing across New England, my man?
Yeah, I'm seeing deals start to pop up and the
Mm.
phone's starting to ring. Q2 is sometimes a slower time, low inventory, who's going to sell right now, 4th of July. Now it's like I've got lake listings coming up, we've got mountain stuff coming up. Things are starting to happen. And then the phone's starting to ring from people looking to buy for cost segregation because we still have 60% bonus depreciation. And with the election, it's high likelihood that 100% bonus will come
Yeah.
back. I just see a lot of movement in the market. And that's the word I'm going to use this year's like movement. It's some
Yeah.
sellers getting motivated. I've got people on the lake starting to do price reductions, right? I've got
Yeah.
mountain people starting to get ready or ask for pricing on their homes that they're considering selling. And then, like I
Yeah.
said, buyers are starting to enter the market. And then the other interesting thing is interest rates are starting to creep down. I'll use the word creep. They're not dropping, but they're creeping down. And new and more affordable products are hitting the market too, where we're seeing second home rates in the high sixes for the first time in 2 years.
At
So
least, yeah, I was gonna say at least a year.
movement. That's the word, man. That's what
Yeah.
I'm seeing in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. We've got buyers active in all the states right now, and we're finding
Yeah.
deals. We're still getting a little scrappy, and it's challenging, but
Yeah.
we are finding deals. And we put 7 properties under contract just last week with people that want to get ahead of cost segregation season. So it's pretty
Totally.
crazy. What are you seeing in
That's
Mass?
awesome. Yeah, it's a little bit slower, so a little bit behind, but we're also
Mm,
pretty micro in the geographic region that we're covering. I know you have like a wide breadth of areas. So,
right.
mainly for me, it's Cape Cod and it's South Shore. What's interesting is I'm starting to see some off-market stuff come up, which I haven't seen in a while, because usually Massachusetts
Yeah.
throw it on the MLS and let the buyers beat themselves up over it. But it's interesting, like I connected with a lady. She's a listing agent, and she owns these like two really cool two-bed, one-bath cottages that she's listing them for 900. They're together as a pair, but they're
Hmm.
year-round. They're each 500 square feet, both updated, and together they did about 103 last year,
That's
um,
strong for the Cape.
which is yeah, and so why did she wanna go off market? Well, she can't really show them that well because 'cause they're slammed this summer. So, there's no time to actually get buyers in, and so anyway, so there's opportunities like that where, on paper, that'll cash flow, not a ton, but you hold on to it's walking distance to the beach. It's a sick location. So,
It's
it's
an
like I'm starting
appreciation
to see
play.
Oh, it's appreciation, but the ADRs also appreciate. I usually find like between 5 and 10% per year. In my case, depending on the house
Wow.
more, like for my cottage, but that's why you give it 3 or 4 years. Stuff like that is great where multiple families can go each have their own cottage, a good plot of land. That land is very valuable. Even if those things were demoed and a mansion was built, I mean, very, very valuable dirt right there. Um,
Your point
in the
about
South
off market is interesting
yeah.
because
Yeah,
I'm starting to see way more of this too, where sellers know they can still get their top dollar off market. They're not compromising like they maybe used to of missing out on the bidding war. I'm not really seeing those. I'm not sure if you are, but it's kind of a
yeah,
win-win solution, especially with these rental properties where there's some deals to be had off market. So you better make sure your agent has those connections
totally.
because I'm seeing them in Bethel, I'm seeing them in Newry, I'm seeing them all over, and then especially in Mass, where it's really hard to list a property when you have 98% occupancy on Cape Cod, right?
Yeah. I will say too, I love off market, both for buying, I also love it for selling.
Right.
At some point, we're gonna be looking at moving out of Holliston, and it'll be within the next year, and we've started floating our house off market. Ideally, I'm never listing that thing. I
Right.
just don't want to. I don't wanna deal with an open house. I don't wanna deal, like, with all the things. I'd rather just give somebody the house at the price I want, let them do their inspection, let them do all their normal things, and make somebody happy and just move on, and so I personally love off market, even if I know I'm leaving 5 or 10% on the table. My goals are my goals, So I totally agree. So like we're seeing that and off market's super rare in Massachusetts. So it's cool to see that opportunity put into our newsletter this week. Up in the South Shore area, and actually, let me circle back. In Cape Cod, I'm seeing lots of like really cool, neat opportunities for 2 and 3 bedroom homes, some 4 bedroom homes. They're
Hmm.
still priced in that like 6 to 700 range, where again, the land that it could be a gorgeous home. The land is so valuable. It is so, so valuable. So it really depends what your goals are. If you want it to be a family home, things like that. In South Shore, I'm finding the best investor opportunities. I'm finding $1 million burrs where that house is worth $2 million when you're done. Now, it doesn't need like 500K of rehab, but it probably needs a couple hundred, mainly because you might be putting a new roof on a 4,000 square foot home, and you might be putting central AC in and doing some new siding. That alone is going to be pretty costly, but the ADRs on the beachfront homes in South Shore and the revenues are insane, man. They're 200K plus sometimes. And what I'm finding is the perfect purchase sweet spot is right in that. It's usually 950 to like 1.2. And what's really interesting is they're actually really, really safe purchases. You just need to have the money. You know what I mean? If you're somebody who has 500K liquid, so that way you can keep a couple 100K in the bank just for reserve. I mean, consistent booking. Those houses, I'm starting to get killer bookings for next spring and summer, especially April marathon. Boston Marathon, super popular. People will come from around the world and they'll stay for 2 weeks, and they'll pay 1,000 a night on a home that costs you $1 million. And so it's insane what I'm starting to see in those markets, and that's why I love them. But it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? You have to have cash to be able to play in that market. So it it can sort of stop a lot of people in their tracks when they realize what kind of capital they need, but it's perfect for investors, especially those that might be syndicating.
What I like though is there's opportunity in every part of New England. There's super low price
Totally.
point stuff that you can pick up in Vermont or parts of Maine. There's really nice lakefront stuff you can get in New Hampshire, and then there's some sick beachfront deals in
Yeah,
Mass, which I think we might have to try to take one down together and do a burr. I
that'd
think
be
that'd
fun.
be way
Oh,
different than what you and I are used to doing burrs in Maine and Chattanooga. But what I thought
totally.
was real interesting too about the South Shore market is the occupancy is out of this world. First off, you
Yeah.
have a property literally on the first page of Airbnb globally. I did a double take on my phone. I'm like, do you manage that? And I looked at the calendar, and I mean, you're booked out almost to December on a beachfront
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
Um,
And then
it's
the
amazing.
owners use it. The owners use that home. They come up from Florida and they use it in December through like the first or second week of January, and we still, I think, are at 197K revenue for that house with 6 weeks off. And yeah, so what I've found is that like to spit out the occupancies, usually January. I'll go through month by month because I have it memorized because I look at these reports, no joke, 3 times a day because it still blows my mind. But January is usually a 25% occupancy, and that's with half the month blocked off. So it's really at like it crushes it. Then February is usually around 35% occupancy. ADR is right around $900 a night for that house. March is around 50. April, we're at 98% occupancy because of the Boston Marathon, and
April.
also that's April.
Crummy
It's too
month in New
cold to go in
England.
the
It
water.
sucks in New England.
It's
Too
not
hot to
fun in
ski, it's
April.
too cold to go in the water, and it's, like, rainy and gross. I hate it.
So you know what happens in April though also is people have to start to get ready to commit to colleges before the fall. And so with over 100 universities in Massachusetts, I get a ton of people that come in, they have money, they want to stay on a nice beachfront home that's only a half hour outside of Boston, and then they use that home as sort of like their stomping ground where they actually do a day trip to Portland. They spend a few days in Boston. They drive out a half hour, 45 minutes, about an hour actually, to Worcester. They go down to Providence, Connecticut, Yale's down there. Like they hit all of these really, really nice schools, and it
That's
takes them
clever.
7 to 10 days. So April and
Wow.
May are totally slammed. And of course, we do a really great job on the revenue management for that house. So it's not going to be 1,500 a night. It might be 7 or 800, and it really just helps to like dial and keep that occupancy. Once you hit June, I mean, we were hitting like 30K revenue in June, 30 something K in July, 30 something K in August. And I think we only have a couple days available for booking essentially between now and, like you said, like Thanksgiving. And so what's interesting in that market is I could go on forever, but yeah, you have a lot of mom and pop dude, there's actually no other managers in that market. You have a lot of mom and pop
It's like all the
owners that
markets in New England. It's really easy to compete on a management level.
totally, and you
Yeah.
definitely don't have folks doing the same like quality and security and marketing that we do. So I've just totally fallen in love with that market, the community. It is a residential area, so like it's not one of those markets where South Shore is not one of those markets where you're going to make much money if it's not something stellar and beachfront. Like you got to pony up and be oceanfront there. But I'm, I love it. I'm super bullish on that market. I've really been enjoying it.
Yeah, you're crushing. I love looking at the newsletter, so
Yeah.
good work with that. I'd say, like, as a
Thank
parting
you.
thing, the last couple
Yeah.
calls I've had this week, all the buyers have set themselves up on timelines, and they're not doing 1031 exchanges, but they've all told me, I need to purchase within 60 days, or I want to do this. And I think we just need to throw that out the window because people are trying to get aggressive in these markets. Now is not the time to get aggressive. And that's coming from two people that make money selling real estate. You
Yeah.
kind of have to sit back and wait for the right deal to come up. Those seven,
Yeah.
contracts I put together, those were people I've been working with since, March, April, right?
Totally.
Those are savvy
Totally.
buyers who have waited and they've understood the criteria. And I find a lot of people jumping in the market now are putting themselves under the gun. Obviously, they need to close before the end of the year, but my best advice is just take a deep breath and make sure you're actually buying the right property and not just jumping into a hype market. And if you really want to buy in X market, patience is important, not to
Yeah.
buy the wrong deal. So,
Yeah, learning a lot about the market. The other thing I'll say is learning how to manage your own home in this industry, and not to just jump in and do a plug, but like we help a lot of homeowners in Launchpad Consulting. The website's just lp.consulting. What I've found is that you can run a pro forma, but that pro forma is assuming that you know the ins and outs of how to manage your own property, how to do revenue management, how to manage guests, how to automate things. And it can be really, really, really challenging if you don't get yourself some level of education on where to list your property, how to list it, how to automate things, how to use like a basic management system. And now most importantly, how to understand revenue management and pricing is like the big one. I know that we're ponying up about 6K for my management company to re-educate ourselves on revenue management. And that's been like my niche, right? Revenue management, listing SEO. I'm really good at it, but I also know I need to continue to learn more if we want to be the top in the market. And so I say that to folks because it's okay to pay for education on how to do all this stuff before you buy the house. I think a lot of people, what I find is that they get the house under contract and they're like, well, I'll learn after I launch, and they do this like bull rush to launch, and then they realize they were forgetting a whole bunch of stuff. And then they realize that their house isn't getting booked because they weren't educated once they've done it, and they kind of look at where to point the finger. And there's a lot of things that go into making a home really, really successful. And just do yourself a favor and find a way to get yourself the education that's necessary so you can like not be successful, but like crush it and be really proud of your investment.
Yeah, the whole good, better, best on the pro forma, you're going to be at the good scenario if you don't invest in your education. I see it every single day versus the people that are at the better or best scenario year one. It's because they invest in their education. I see it firsthand. I see people that have struggled and they reach out to me, and I mean, I can tell you why you're struggling. It's XYZ reason. It's go talk to these guys so they can actually show you how to do it. So I'd say, yeah, it's like not rushing into purchases, being patient, and then investing in your education and also investing in the property. That's going to be the name of the game for Q3 and Q4 as we launch into the new year in peak season in New England, a lot of these markets. There's still great deals to be had. Consumers are just, getting a little bit more savvy. So we just got to level up a bit. So.
Boom. Mic drop. That was a good one to end on.
Awesome, man.
Well, my friend, somebody wants to buy a house in New England. How can they reach you?
WillVanWickler.com. Let's jump on a call now instead of in December. That'd be my ask. If we want to get something closed this year, we can help you in Vermont, New Hampshire, and the great state of Maine. What about you, man?
I love it. Yeah, honestly, these days, just head to DaveMenapace.com. From there, you can learn about our co-hosting business, our consulting business, our buy-sell business in Massachusetts. That's the easiest place to go to hit me up. Or you can go on Instagram, Dave_Menapace, or just find me on Facebook, shoot me a DM, Dave Menapace. Happy to help. And, I might send you right back up to Will if I feel like the mountain or the lakes or those coastal areas in Maine are more in alignment with your goals. But at the end of the day, all Will and I want is for you to make informed decisions and to win at achieving your goals.
That's it, man. Hey, always a pleasure, and I'll catch you next week.
Love it, my man. You take care.
See ya.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Hassle-Free RE. We hope you found today's tips and stories as inspiring and useful as I did. Remember, success in the short-term rental industry is all about learning, adapting, and staying one step ahead. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to leave us a review or comment on your favorite platform. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more listeners like you. Plus, we'd love to hear your thoughts and any topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And follow us at Hassle-Free RE on social media for more tips and updates. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep it hassle-free.